Hey HTDA and welcome back to Astro Colony. We have a lot of asteroid catchers set up. We have a lot of spiders moving all over the place in order to make sure our materials are going everywhere. We currently have everything we can produce already automated, so that's awesome. And now we are going to take a next giant leap in terms of our progress. We are going to connect our base to one of these planetoids in order to make sure we can mine some more advanced resources. Because if you look at the map, you will find yourself in the middle. Can I zoom out, please? Yes. And these little asteroids or planetoids or whatever you want to call them have more advanced resources on them. So, for example, this one over here has copper, titanium, and uranium, but there's also more basic resources on some of them. Let's see, what else do we have over here? We have aluminium over here. We have more titanium and uranium over here. Well, I guess you get the gist. So we definitely want to connect to a couple of these asteroids, and the real question is, how do we do that? Now, as always, the answers are going to be in the technology tree, and there's a couple of different ways you can actually move your colony around and connect it to planetoids. So first of all, we have the cosmic harpoon. It is unlocked very early, you only need some basic science for that, and it's basically a type of tractor beam that you can use to pull asteroids, or I should say planetoids, to you. And then connect to them. I'll show you that in a moment, but it's a very basic way that you unlock very early on, so there's no reason to wait. The second way to move your colony is, of course, with an actual engine attached to your colony. It will use some fuel, of course, but it's basically a way not to get the planetoid to you, which is what you do with the cosmic harpoon, but the other way around, you move your colony through space on its own power. And then last but not least, we have the docking station, which is basically a more high-tech version of the same type of connection that you can make with the harpoon. But it also has a double function because it will actually allow astronauts to arrive on your colony. We're not going to do the actual astronaut arriving in this episode. That's going to be in the next one, because we first need to set them up, because we are going to be we're going to need to be able to actually feed our astronauts, and currently they don't eat iron, they don't eat copper or anything like that. No, they actually want some proper food. So in order to make that, we are going to need a couple of resources that we can only get on planetoids. So let's start working towards that. Okay, so let's start with the basic way of propelling your colony through space. You have thrusters, which you can place wherever you want on your colony. It doesn't actually matter, you don't need to put them at the sides or anything like that. So I keep them usually in the middle on this platform, just nice and convenient and easy to reach. But you do need some of them facing in different directions, because of course they propel you in a certain direction. So once you build them and you power them up, for example, a little bit like this, let's put it to full power, we will be moving in the west direction. So if I now look up to the sky, you can clearly see us moving away from this particular planetoid. If I want the reverse direction, I actually can't with this specific thruster, because it's only going to move west. I can, if I power it up, move either to the left or right. That will make us move south or north, but I can't move to the east, basically. Well, technically, I guess we're moving to the east because it says west minus direction, but you get the point. I can also move us up or down, and of course that will either move the colony up or down. That's going to be the same for every single thruster, but as you can see, I currently have no way of moving into the actual positive west direction. So that's where the second set of thrusters come in. I power this one up. This will initially move us to the north, but if I put it to the right, as you can see, we now have a positive value for the west speed direction. And of course, if I power that up, we should now see us moving towards that particular colony again. So basically all you need is two different thrusters, and you will be able to move your colony wherever you want to go. Now, if you add multiple thrusters that all move in the same direction, of course you'll be able to actually increase your speed. And by using this button over here, you can actually set the same setting. So let's say I put this to 20%. And I then click this, and then all the other thrusters that face in the same direction, like this one over here, will be set to the exact same setting. So that's an easy way of making sure you don't have to manually set your thrusters one by one. Now, the more convenient way of actually attracting planetoids or connecting your colony to planetoids is by using the harpoon connector. Now, there is a little bit of a manual to this, and I had to play around with it a little bit to find out how it actually works. But the idea is that you build one at the edge of your platform, you connect it to power, you push this button, and then you can start attracting planetoid. Now, as you can see, we have several of them in this direction. I can connect to some, but I can't connect to others. Now, you might think this has something to do with distance. But I actually tested this and found that it seems to be related to size rather than distance. For example, this one over here is clearly pretty close as well, but it's a much larger planetoid than the small one over here. That's also, of course, much closer, but for example, this one is definitely not as close as the other one, but we can still connect to that. Now, once you click on it, you will start attracting it. I'm not entirely sure if it's working right now. Can we actually see it moving? Not entirely sure. Let's try it on this one. Now you can clearly see that we are attracting the planetoid. It's coming closer to us. The other planetoids are actually not moving, so it's the planetoid coming to us rather than the other way around. And once it gets close, you can easily build another one of these harpoon connectors on the other one and then simply connect them. Now, in order to connect these things, it's actually pretty straightforward. All you need to do is build a small platform at the planetoid that you want to connect. Build another one of those harpoon connectors. You don't actually need to power this up, because as long as you have one side powered up, you can just simply press dock. It will automatically find whatever connecting second half is somewhere close, and it will then automatically make a bridge. Now, the awesome thing about this bridge is that you can actually set it to have an in or output. You decide which is which based on these buttons. So for example, I want inputs over here and I want an output over here. Then I will get a belt moving that is actually going to be able to connect to our own belts on our platform in terms of an in and output. Now, of course, if I simply want two inputs, for example, I can set that up as well, and now I have two inputs, etc, etc. It's actually going to be very convenient. The only downside is, of course, this type of planetoid is tiny, tiny, tiny. Now, of course, even though it's tiny, if you scan it, I always forgot which button is the scan? C. It's C. As you can see, we have a pretty decent amount of iron ore over here. It's a total of 700 almost. And well, even though that's not a massive amount, it's definitely a lot compared to how much you get from a single asteroid, which is only going to be 5 or 6. So if you want a steady supply of iron deposit, for example, in this case over here, it's going to be iron, then it's a very easy way to just attract one of those planetoids, put a drilling machine on there, and have some free iron good to go. However, I'm not really interested in these small planetoids for now. I actually want the larger one. So we are currently trying to maneuver our way into a position that we can actually connect to the planetoid called Duddits. Now, this is actually named after, I think, the backers from the original Kickstarter. So in case you wonder why you see some crazy names, that's why. Now, in order to connect to a planetoid, as you saw before, we need to make a station on the other side to connect to. But it's actually very easy to kind of shape the asteroid in the way you want it. So in my case, I want a kind of a platform over here, so I can just hack my way and flatten this out a little bit so I have some space to work with, and then place down either a harpoon or a docking station. And the main difference between a harpoon connector as well as a docking station is the size of this. So the docking station works pretty much in the same way. You can still auto dock, and you will still have the automatic belts going in and out just as with the harpooning station. But the big difference is that you can actually put 4 belts in a docking station. So you have twice the amount of capacity going in and out. Now, the real question is, are you actually going to need all that capacity from a single asteroid? Not entirely sure. Probably. At some point, at least. In case you're wondering what happens if you crash into a planetoid, well, nothing. It just clips straight through your colony. It's one of the things I think is a little bit sort of, well, not an oversight. It's probably very hard to code this in such a way that it stops your colony from colliding or destroys your colony, which would be much worse. And keep in mind, this game is only made by a single developer. So I'm ready to forgive them about that. It's just something that's slightly annoying, but you can actually just cut your base out, so you can just hack away at the planetoid and make sure you free that up. But speaking of hacking, we don't want to manually mine our asteroids, so we are going to set up a little mining facility. In order to do that, you're going to have to clear out some of these larger rocks. As you can see, it takes quite a while to hack away at it, but it will clear out instantly once you're done with that. So that shouldn't take too much time. Now, on top of that, we kind of want a flat open area to put down some buildings. So I'm going to do exactly that, and then we'll meet back. The most basic version of mining is exactly that. From the mining machine or the drill, you place it on the ground, and it needs to be on somewhat of a flat surface. It doesn't need to be too flat. As you can see, you can kind of put it on the hill if you want to. You do need to power it, and in case you were wondering, should I get the power from my main base, you can try, but you probably won't succeed, because for some reason the game seems to consider the base its own thing, so you can't actually connect the power sources. However, drills don't need that much power to begin with, so solar power is a very convenient way to just hook up something to power, and a little power line will go a long way to make sure that actually works like intended. As you can see, it will now start drilling. It will actually drill down, and it will drill the entire area that it can reach. So you can see the arm moving around, and it will start gathering some dirt in the machine itself. Now, of course, we want to bring that out, so I want to set up a belt into a storage facility. And there we go, automated dirt. And as you can see, we're digging quite the hole, so we'll probably have to put down a couple of these mining machines at some point, because this will at some point run out of dirt to drill. As you can see, before it does so, it produces quite a large amount of dirt. But there's, of course, a smarter way of doing this. Which brings us back to the technology screen, because in order to get access to the more advanced mining techniques, we are going to, well, have to unlock advanced mining, very aptly named. There's just going to be one problem with that, because in order to unlock this, we are going to need the third type of science, which is called chemistry science. And in order to make chemistry science, we are going to need scientists, actual humans on our colony making that science. Now, in order to get astronauts on our colony, we already need the docking station, which we have. We're also going to need to make sure they can actually rest somewhere, so we're going to need a hibernation chamber, which we can unlock very easily. That's not really a problem. We're also going to need to make sure we can feed them. In order to feed them, we are going to need to make hydrotonics. In order to make hydrotonics, we are going to need to make quartz. And in order to make quartz, we're going to need sand. And we now have access to sand. So this was not for nothing. And in the next episode, we're going to focus on bringing some actual people to our station. I really hope you enjoyed this one so far. If you want to see actual humans in your colony, make sure you join me for the next one. Like and subscribe if you haven't, and I hope to catch you in that next one.